Welcome to the September 4th Rotary Club of Columbus meeting. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Joseph Brannon will now bring us the invocation in accordance with his faith tradition.
Thank you, President Meredith. Would you please pray with me? Dear God, thank you for gathering us here today. For this meal, these friends and colleagues, we are grateful. Lord, today, especially we thank you for each day of creation, the light in the dark, the waters in the sky, the land, vegetation, fruits in their seed, the sun, the moon, and the stars, the fish and the birds, livestock, the beasts, and even the creeping things. Each new day you provided something to sustain us, Lord. And on the final day, you created us, the worker, the farmer, people each made in your likeness, Father. For these things we are thankful. As we meet here today, make us mindful of those in need. Help us to live as people of action, serving our community. Finally, for this meal and those whose hands have prepared it, we are thankful. It's in your name that I pray. Amen. Now, please don't forget the cans, which I did not grab one of, but I hear some coins out there. And a brief Rotary football update. It is not too late to sign up. There are forms in the back, so if you are interested in playing, please sign up. It's for a good cause, the Rotary Foundation. Now, I thought this weekend my Auburn Tigers scored the most points in the SEC with 73 on Alabama, but as it turns out, the Ole Miss Rebels hung 76 on the Furman Paladins. So, congratulations to Ole Miss. Anyways, sign up for Rotary football.
Thank you, Joseph. Leanne DeSirius has our news.
Well, good afternoon. Here are today's local headlines for Wednesday, September the 4th. An all clear after bomb threat at Muskogee County Government Center. The Muskogee County Sheriff's Office has provided additional details on a bomb threat made at the Government Center this morning. Sheriff Greg Countryman reported that the threat was called into the Superior Court Clerk's office around 9:30 this morning, specifically mentioning bombs in the courtrooms. After a thorough investigation, the Sheriff's Office issued an all clear at 10:43 a.m. this morning. Thankfully, no explosives were found and the building has been deemed safe. Need Friday night plans this week? Friday Night Concert Series returns with historic first in Uptown Columbus. The Uptown Columbus is teaming up with Columbus Pro Baseball for an exciting comeback of the Friday Night Concert Series, and it's packed with surprises. On September 6th, the highly anticipated name of the Columbus Pro Baseball team will finally be revealed. After months of secrecy, the big announcement will take place between free performances by Tommy Preen and Homegrown, a Zach Brown Band tribute band. That's not all. The night will feature a first-of-its-kind baseball-themed drone show with 150 drones lighting up the sky. Festivities kick off at 5:30 p.m., so don't miss out on this historic night. And on this day, 22 years ago, how many of you guys know about American Idol? The very first American Idol was claimed by Kelly Clarkson. She was a 20-year-old cocktail waitress from Texas on this day in 2002. And what's worth noting, today is National Eat an Extra Dessert Day. So if we see you guys walking over to the dessert table, we know what's happening. For today's weather, it is partly cloudy and breezy with a high of 88. And the Dow Jones was down by 11 points today at 12:15. So remember to spread kindness like sunshine and watch the world bloom. Have a great day.
Thank you, Leanne. Frey McCormick will now introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thanks, President. All right. Thanks, President Meredith and fellow Rotarians. We have a table full of special guests today, but Ron is going to introduce those in just a minute. They're here receiving checks. Pat Frey has Tarika Barnes here today. Tarika is with United Way. Welcome. Norm Easterbrook has his better half, Margot. She's here today. Welcome. Joey Loudermilk has Daniel Horde, his son-in-law, who is chief deputy with the Columbus Fire Department. Welcome. And Mike Dempsey has Jerry Dodson here today. Jerry is the man, is the man, because he is the command sergeant major at Fort Moore. So he's the one who really runs things out there. So we want to welcome all of y'all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Frey. Fredo Gonzalez will now introduce our Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week.
President Meredith, fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure to introduce Sergeant First Class Claudine Beckford. She enlisted in the Army in 2013. Her first assignment was to Camp Casey, Korea, where she was there for a year. Then she came back stateside to Fort Leonard Wood, and then was reassigned to Kaiserslautern, Germany, for where she did 3 years, and then followed by another 2-year tour in Korea. And then she ended up here in Fort Benning with us. She is a logistics specialist in the Army. She's originally from St. Thomas, Jamaica. Growing up, she played a lot of cricket, a lot of soccer, and she got so good at cricket that in 2011 she played for the U.S. women's team here. And then she enlisted in the Army in 2013 while she was in Fort Leonard Wood. She asked her first sergeant if she can try out for the women's cricket team again. She said, "I'm really good at it." They didn't believe her. And so she said, "Google my name." And they Googled her name. She had stats on ESPN, and they said, "Sure." So in 2019, she went back on the women's U.S. cricket team. And she did a year there. Unfortunately, she's had some issues with her knees, and she's in recovery now. But one of her goals is to get back on the U.S. women's team. She's also in the process of submitting her warrant officer packet to be a logistics officer, and she's also working on her master's degree in business administration with a concentration in finance. Her awards include Army Commendation Medal. She is Modern Army Combatives Level 1 and 2 certified. And Sergeant Beckford, the first thing I want to give you is this book by Ralph Puckett Jr., Words for Warriors. And it's given to you by Rotarian Kazad Sharaf. Do that. And then second, we have your certificate for the Colonel Ralph Puckett Jr. Soldier of the Week. We also have a passport to the arts for you and a guest for events at the River Center, National Infantry Museum, the Springer Theater, and the Columbus State Theater Department. In addition to that, we have a challenge coin, and you know what to do with that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Sergeant First Class Beckford. I'll say a few words.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here, learning about the history of the Rotary Club, and it's over 115 years old. I didn't know about it until today, so it's good to find something in the community that you're close to, that you can be a part of also, so good to know. And yes, I did tell my command team to go Google me, because it's just a way of me getting to start playing cricket again. Yes. So I'm actually on Google on a Wikipedia page. So if you wanna, you can find more information about me on there. Yes. But that's my goal, to go get back on the team so I can try and get the USA team back to the World Cup so we can play in the World Cup. So the men's team played in the World Cup earlier this year. They did pretty good. If you know about cricket, they beat Pakistan, which is one of the biggest teams in the world. So that's good on them. The women's trying to do that too. So, yeah, thank you.
Sergeant First Class Beckford, welcome. We appreciate your service to our country, and thank you for being with us today. Please feel free to join us again at another time. Thank you. Ron Williams now has our Feed the Hungry presentation.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. It is my honor to stand before you to make these very important presentations, one of our primary initiatives as Rotarians. So we do have some people here to receive their checks for our Feed the Hungry initiative, and when I call your name, please come forward for brief remarks and to receive your check. So first up, we have Mary Lou Gerald with the Winton Neighborhood Network. Please come forward.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and for supporting this community. Yes, you know that the needs in this community are large, and it takes a lot of people to help them, and you are one of those organizations, so thank you very much.
Next up, we've got Libba Russell and Margot Easterbrook from the St. Thomas Episcopal Buddy Pack.
Thank you. St. Thomas Episcopal Church has been in partnership with the local elementary school, Brewer Elementary School, for many years, and one of our many programs is providing buddy packs, food that goes home on Friday with approximately 80 students who live in food insecure households. So your donation supports food going to kids who struggle to have enough. So thank you very much.
Catherine Thornell from St. Anne's.
Thank you all. I'm with St. Anne's Community Outreach Center. We run an emergency grocery program, rental assistance, utility assistance, among a few other things. So we're humbled by your support. It truly takes a village, and we appreciate what you do to support us in supporting those most in need in this community.
Lindy Dunn from Good Neighbor.
Thank you for partnering with us. Good Neighbor matches schools and churches together to offer tutoring, and one of the aspects is providing a meal for the students because they don't care how much you know if they are hungry. So we appreciate you partnering with us for this. Thank you.
Mike Gaiman from the Valley Rescue Mission.
Thank you. Valley Rescue Mission has been serving this community for about 64 years. Last year we fed 188,131 meals. This year we'll exceed over 200,000 meals, giving to folks who need a hot meal. So on behalf of Valley Rescue Mission, this $1,000 will go a long way to feed a lot of hungry people. Thank you very much.
And I don't think we have anybody from Feed the Valley, but we've also got $1,000 for Feed the Valley as well. And so it's important to note that the money for this initiative comes from these cans that's on the table. So thank you to everyone who participates each week to make this possible. We now have our president come and take a picture with the group. good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. That poem always makes me think about the great partnerships that we have with our local community members. So thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron. I'd also like to thank Adrian Chester and his Feed the Hungry committee that helped with these selections. And congratulations to all our winners. We are so glad to have you here and are so thankful to be able to support you. So thank you. Just a few announcements. We have our Zoom happy hour tomorrow from 6 to 8. Please join us for fellowship and a makeup. And next week, September the 11th, we will actually be meeting at the River Center. So please put that on your calendar. Please go to the River Center. There'll be an email that'll go out this week with details to exactly where to park and where to go into the River Center. But we've been there before, and we appreciate Norm allowing us to be there next week, as the Trade Center has a big commitment here, so we can't meet here like we normally do. At this time, I'm going to call on past President Michael Silverstein to introduce our program.
Thank you, Meredith. Today's program is White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures is a sixth-generation, 156-year-old family farm in Bluffton, Georgia, that was established in 1866. White Oak Pasture focuses on regenerative land management, humane animal husbandry, and revitalizing their rural community. We have the distinct privilege today to hear from Jenni Harris, who is an integral member of the fifth generation of the Harris family. And after living on the farm her entire life, Jenni went to Valdosta State University and earned a degree in business marketing and graduated in 2009. She remained intimately involved in the family business throughout her studies, but after graduating from Valdosta State, Jenni set out to learn the industry, and she moved to Atlanta, where she interned at Buckhead Beef Company. She put in time in every department, from shipping and receiving to the cut shop, and was later hired to work as a sales associate. And then in June of 2010, Jenni returned to home in Early County to work for White Oak Pastures full-time. As the director of marketing, Jenni spends her time focusing on the balance of e-commerce growth and wholesale relationships. Jenni is the proud mother of Jack and Lottie Harris and the wife of the Director of Specialty Products, Amber Harris. Please join me now in giving Jenni a very warm Rotary welcome today.
Hey guys, it's such a privilege for me to be able to be with y'all today. I learned on the way in that 10 years ago to this month, my dad, Will Harris, actually spoke to this same group. Is there anybody in here who might have heard him speak 10 years ago? Whoa, okay, that's great. Well, just so you know, you got second string here. He's 70, I'm 37, so I'm still in training, but I'm gonna do my best to do a really good job. The other thing I'll start out by saying is that it's clear the people in this room love Columbus. That is so important, and it's almost kind of emotional. You know, it's I don't know why I'm crying. Goodness gracious. Y'all love Columbus so much. But I love my town too. I forgot my PowerPoint thing over there. But I'm from a town called Bluffton. Can we, yeah, there we go. So I love my town just as much as y'all love y'all's town, except for my town has 103 people, so I get to love those people extra hard. Y'all have tens of thousands of people, so you get to spread your love a little better. A little history on Bluffton is that it was established in 1815 on agriculture. You know, people, raised crops, came to Bluffton, traded or sold those crops, and it was a real agrarian county, and there were no mills, no factories, no manufacturing centers, no river that runs through Bluffton, no railroad. It was just this really odd place that popped up out of nowhere. And the reason it popped up is because where Bluffton lies is where the Appalachian Mountains go subterranean. So we've got a really, really healthy ridge of soil that allows a lot of crops to grow very easily. It's also the high ground in between the Chattahoochee River and the Flint River. So for a lot of different reasons, Bluffton is a really special place, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. So a little bit about White Oak Pastures, and I can bore you with some history, but I'll spare it because so many of you heard Dad's presentation 10 years ago. But post-World War II, my great-great-grandfather settled in Bluffton, and the mindset back in the mid-1860s was that if you wanted to eat it, wear it, or smoke it, you grew it. And that's a lot of how we operate today. If you want to eat it, wear it, or smoke it, you kind of got to grow it. But my great-great-grandfather continued that model. He integrated lots of different types of livestock, lots of different crops, and he was a real farmer. He knew a lot about land and a lot about livestock. His son, Will Carter Harris, my great-grandfather, continued his efforts through his life, and it wasn't until his son, I hope y'all are catching the theme, only children and all male. I just want to set y'all up for a huge plot twist. Clearly, there's been a departure from that. But my grandfather really changed the farm. He was born in 1920, a true child of the Depression, and that time really marked those people. Agriculture was talked about in three different ways. You know, we think that it changed dramatically from that eat it, wear it, or smoke it mindset to an even more broad way of business. It was commoditized, which meant that instead of being the best miller of the wheat or crafter of the horseshoes as a blacksmith or baker of the bread, we established a minimum standard. We just needed to hit this very low bar of food-safe, food-grade products, and then it was a commodity. So it was commoditized. Food and agriculture was centralized. Instead of there being a small, processor or abattoir, as we used to call it in these small towns, where you take your steer for finishing, we changed that. We took the cows to the corn, not the corn to the cows. And so as a result, the meat industry specifically was incredibly centralized. And today, over 80% of the meat that we all eat is produced by one of four big major multinational corporations, two of which have foreign ownership. And the third thing is that it was industrialized. We relied heavily on science and technology to allow us to yield crops. It was no longer about working with nature, but it was about using inputs, be it chemicals or soil amendments or GMO seeds, to produce a crop. And those were three big, I think you could call them advancements, because the mindset back then was get big or get out. And that's exactly what happened. The next slide will talk about that. So the next generation, who is my father, he dramatically changed it in the mid-90s into what we call regenerative agriculture. And I don't want to do a spoiler for you guys. I'm going to get to that a little later. So if you don't know what that means, don't worry, you will before I get done. And today, my sister and I, my dad had 3 daughters, 2 of which who work on the farm. We continue that journey with him. We've changed the business a good bit, and it's really interesting to watch how the business has changed with each generation that's come back to work in it. We'll talk about that later too. So I think in order to fully understand what we do at White Oak Pastures and why that's different, you have to kind of understand how the food production model has changed on a really broad level. Between 1987 and 2012, the United States lost nearly 600,000 small and medium-sized farms. And so the farms that are left are large industrial-scale farms that are dependent on the commodity market, the commodity inputs, to grow commodity crops to be sold at commodity prices. And today we hear about more and more farmers in my county Early County who are choosing to sit this year out because the numbers don't pencil anymore. There's no longer a way to show a clear profit at the end of harvest. Food is less and less nutritious. We could talk about this a lot, but there was a study that I read about a year ago that showed that garden crops were 38% less nutritious grown today than they were in the 50s. And we think, well, why is that? Well, we've dramatically changed the seeds that we're planting. We've dramatically changed the soil that it's grown in. And so we can't expect for us to yield the same nutrition and the same product when so many of those variables are so incredibly different. Catastrophes continue to unfold. The news is full of gloom and doom, and a lot of that's true, unfortunately. There are wildfires spreading in the Midwest. There is terrible erosion in our rivers and lakes that flow into the Gulf of Mexico and have formed a dead zone in the Gulf the size of Massachusetts. There's another statistic that says 50% of our population of insects are in decline, and they fear will be extinct in the next 50 years. And we think, well, if gnats went away, would that be so bad? Probably not. Probably not. But gnats play a very important role in our natural ecosystem. They're here for a reason. I don't know why. God does. And he put them here. We talked about creation during the prayer. He chose to put them here. And even though we don't understand it, they play a role. Let's see. Food looks more and more like a manufactured byproduct, full of ingredients that consumers can't identify or pronounce. We see the outer perimeter of the grocery stores shrinking and the aisles getting bigger and bigger. And we all know that when we go in and we turn to the right, we're going to hit the produce, and we're going to cruise on around, and then we'll hit the meat, and then we'll hit the dairy on the way out. Well, those aisles are getting shorter and shorter, and the middle aisles that are full of shelf-stable boxed food, cereals, bars, meal replacements, etc., those aisles are getting bigger and bigger. Farms are struggling to make ends meet crop after crop, and so what does it mean to have fewer farmers? We were just talking, me and Mr. Michael up here, about the textile industry going overseas. Well, unfortunately, so much of our food is going overseas. We now operate in a global economy with regard to the way our food is imported, the way our food is grown. Just like the textile industry, just like the automotive industry. You can look in the back of your shirt and tell where your shirt was sewn, but you can't look at a package of meat and tell what country that animal lived in, which is just incredible to me. Maybe it's not to y'all. I'm in the food business, but it's incredible to me. And the last thing is that we remain really focused on extractive tools to yield the things that we eat. So a little bit about White Oak Pastures, which I'll get to on the next slide, but we had an LCA performed, which stands for a life cycle assessment. It's a very expensive soil study. They tested different pastures that have been under ruminant grazing for various amounts of time. And what they found was that thanks to ruminant grazing, ruminants have 4 stomachs or 4 chambers in their stomach, cattle, goats, sheep. But thanks to ruminant grazing, the soil under their feet grew from less than 0.5% of organic matter to over 5% in 20 years, which is incredible. We talk about rebuilding soil, and you hear so much about soil health. Well, cattle, contrary to popular belief, are part of the solution, not part of the problem. Uh-oh, I hit one of those buttons that I wasn't supposed to. There we go. So, White Oak Pastures' journey started with animal welfare. My dad, inheriting the farm from his dad, inherited 1,000 acres of land and a nice herd of cattle. And after growing them, he felt that it was wrong to ship them without food or water or rest from South Georgia to Nebraska to be finished in a confined animal feeding operation, standing knee-deep in manure, eating copious quantities of grain and carbohydrates, to be sold as centralized, mass-produced, industrialized, commoditized food. So he didn't really, back in the mid-90s, regenerative agriculture, even sustainable agriculture, was not really a thing. It was just this crazy farmer in southwest Georgia who knew he was a cog in the system and wanted to be the whole system. He wanted to be the food system, just as his great-great-grandfather was, however many years, 150 years prior. That very intensive understanding of animal welfare led him down a journey to focusing on land and soil health. And so that top picture there, you can see White Oak Pastures, our processing plants, are on the left. On the right is a commodity field that's grown in cotton, corn, and peanuts, just in rotation. A lot of bare ground, a lot of erosion. And that bottom picture there on the right is right across the road where our water is being shed. It's almost clear. You can see it's kind of dark because of the ground beneath it, but it's merging with runoff water from that 200-acre commodity row crop field. And you can see the amount of erosion, the amount of runoff that's in that rainwater. This was also, my dad had the opportunity to be on the Joe Rogan Experience in the fall of 2022. If you watch much of Joe, he plays this video about every 10 or 12 episodes or so. It impacted him in a really special way. And if a picture's worth 1,000 words, this video's worth 1,000,000 words. And it's on our YouTube if you want to check it out. So after he had really focused on land and soil health, he realized that our model was radically traditional. It was radical because it was different than the industrial model, but it was traditional because it's exactly the way his ancestors had farmed, generations prior. So today we focus on three things. We focus on the well-being of our livestock. We raise cattle, goats, sheep, hogs, and poultry. We focus on rebuilding the soil with moving our cattle every single day. If you want to come to Bluffton, I encourage you to do so. There's about 2,000 head of cattle that move from one pasture to the next every single day. So it's a pretty incredible sight. And we're also very focused on our small town, Bluffton, population 103. It's actually in the 2020 economic census was the poorest county in the United States in 2020. So the poorest county in the United States. It's just an hour and 18 minutes down the road from y'all. But our farm, over the last 15 years, has been able to create some really quality jobs. And today, I get the opportunity to work with 150 coworkers who are all great people. And we're all very focused on producing really good food. This was made possible because we in 2007 and 2008 built on-farm processing plants to turn our cattle into beef. Consumers don't buy cattle, they buy beef. And so we had that really necessary part of turning cows into beef, which we didn't necessarily want to go into the processing business, but we did because we knew it was part of the equation. We introduced additional livestock to our farm. So I mentioned the species that we raised earlier, but they each play such an essential role in rebuilding the soil. Hogs' noses are like shovels. They are big yellow equipment with a heartbeat. They move earth. You think about the old quote, like, I can move mountains. You might not can, but hogs can. You give them an opportunity and they will. They will move a mountain. Chickens, their beaks penetrate the soil. It's just aeration in a whole different way. God so beautifully created these animals to provide a very specific job. And farms look more like factories, less like farms today. And I'm really proud that our farm looks like a farm. So selling the meat and the process. You don't just sell the product, you sell the process, and the process is the rotational moving, the great animal welfare. We started as a grocery company. Publix, Whole Foods, and Kroger were our first customers, believe it or not. They're all three pretty pretty big behemoth companies, but all no longer work with Whole Foods. You listen to Joe Rogan and you'll understand why. We moved into a blended model, so we've integrated some e-commerce into our production system in addition to our grocery. And we now sell about $30 million worth of meat up and down the East Coast. We're also in the education business. We put on events. My dad created a 501c3 for education so other farmers can learn how to do that. Learn how to do this. That's called the Center for Agricultural Resilience. We take pride in zero waste production. We create our own soaps made from fat, belts made from cattle hides, leather bags and wallets. So there's no part of the carcass that goes to waste. Every part of the animal is used at White Oak Pastures. And the last little bullet here, I'm almost done, is the newest projects that we've got. We'll be opening a retail space in Atlanta, Georgia. So super excited about that. We sell to a lot of grocery stores. We've not sold for ourselves. We've never had our own retail store. So more on that. Maybe if we come back in 10 years, that'll be a success story that we can report back. We've built a big freezer. I begged for a freezer every year from Santa Claus, and I'm finally getting it this year. We should have the units turned on in 2 weeks, so really excited about that. We'll be transitioning our second plant that we built in 2010 into a plant to handle small ruminants and hogs. And my father is quite the visionary, and he wants to take both of our processing plants solar. So we'll be putting in a 700 megawatt array to go off the grid and make our own green electricity. So ways you can become involved. Y'all need to shop locally. You've got some farmers in this room. There's a lady named Jenny right there. She raises some food. Turntine Farms, is that person in here? If he's not, you ought to visit him. Jenny Jack Farms, just north of y'all on the interstate. Great people. I love Jenny Jackson. She's a great person. My dad wrote a book. It's called A Bold Return to Giving a Damn. It was published by Penguin Random House in October of last year. And that's been an exciting journey for us. We marketed a lot of stuff, never marketed a book, but here we are. Learn more through our nonprofit. We do some workshops like I mentioned before. Think objectively, ruminants are part of the solution, not part of the problem. The narrative today is so focused on cattle being part of the problem. And I agree, industrial produced food is problematic. I'm not standing up here saying that cattle cannot be a problem. But it's the how, not the cow. Those animals are not allowed to express their instinctive behavior, and all of us would be problematic. Anything is problematic if it's taken out of context and pushed through a very unnatural system. This is the narrative we're being fed. Go to a farm, show kids where your food is produced and not purchased. Going to the grocery store is not going to the farm. So the last slide, which I'll leave you guys with, is something that my dad always says. There should be and can be a White Oak Pastures in every agricultural county in America. Our farm was completely done by a C student. I'm also a C student, but C student from a land-grant university, not a Fulbright scholar, and it was done with bank debt, not a trust fund. There's no reason that these farms can't replicate in every agricultural county all over the United States. We just have to find the time to give a damn. So that's it. Is there time for questions?
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. I'm going to let you answer a few questions. We have time for a couple of questions. George, you want to go ahead?
Questions are my favorite. That part was painful. This will be less painful.
Say a little bit about your restaurant, and then I was going to ask you, of the 103 people that are in Bluffton, how many of those are Arabic?
There you go. So I've been asked to repeat the question because there are apparently some people watching online. But their first question was the restaurant. And I can tell you I didn't get this size not eating at our restaurant. Our restaurant cooks delicious food. We cook mostly in beef tallow, which is how the McDonald's French fries became famous. We don't use a whole lot of seed oils. We cook the produce and the protein that comes from our farm. So pretty interesting concept. It is truly farm to table, birth to barcode, pasture to plate, field to fork, you name it, we got it. And then how many people am I kin to in Bluffton? I claim a few, but I'm truthfully kin to most. So you got to be more specific. Who am I claiming, or who? How's the family tree fall?
You talk about how food is
Food is less nutritious now, and partially based on how the seed companies and seed industries have changed what seeds look like. For people who have backyard gardens and are concerned about this issue, is there any guidance you have on maybe focusing more on heritage type seeds or something like that?
So the question was about the hijacking of heirloom seeds that's occurred here. And truthfully, there are places online. We get a lot of our seeds from Johnny's Seeds, so you can do a quick Google, and there are places that sell heirloom seeds. Specific to meat, the nutritional density is so different. Crops are a little easier to test. A carrot is a carrot. But a cow is different because it grazes different grasses. And so there's just now starting to be technology to measure things called phytonutrients in beef. My dad has got a lot of famous quotes, and I'm proud of myself for not saying all of them during this talk. But one of them that I will say is that industrial livestock live in a feedlot. They're fed on natural diets. They grow to be obese and sedentary beasts, and then they're processed and sold as food. What about eating an animal that's dying of obesity and a sedentary lifestyle makes you think that's good for you?
Ms. Harris, a few years ago, I had the pleasure of stopping by your farm. The most gigantic, muscular pit bull I've ever seen in my life that you kept walking around. And the pit bull got so big because of eating beef parts. I'm just curious to know, because I think about that dog all the time.
Me too.
And she's still eating beef hearts?
So the question was about our mascot who happened to pass away. His name is Ox, or was Ox. And he was a blue pit, and he lived at the processing plant with me. And he ate nothing but, Dad says he eats nothing but ground stuff he found on the ground at the plant. And that included liver, heart, ground beef, bones, and he was the biggest pit bull most people have ever seen in their life. He was a gentle giant. He was the best dog ever, but he passed away of a heat stroke. Sad day.
Thank you, Jenny, so much for sharing about your farm. We also appreciate your coming today. I know you had to travel to be here, and we really appreciate that. In your honor, we're going to place a children's book in our public library, so thank you so much for being here. And Ryan Clements has a special presentation he'd like to make.
Thank you, President Meredith. Jenny, we have to remember your dad's visit with us 10 years ago. We have proof of it here with a young-looking guy and past President Michael, God rest his soul. But in any case, the visit with your dad resulted in us giving him a gift. So legend had it that he had one glass of red wine every, end of every day. However, his glass was 750 milliliters. So, we are presenting to you today one glass of red wine, and you can share it with him if you'd like. So.
Thank you, Ryan. I'd like to re-welcome our visiting Rotarians and guests and our Soldier of the Week. Thank you for being with us. Natalia, how has your week been?
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. Mine was really nice. I went with Chris and Jill Brazell, Katie's host family, to LJ, Georgia. We went to a really nice cabin, and it was by a lake. I got to see a male deer. I forget the name they told me, but I'm really bad with names. And we went trailing 2 trails in LJ and 2 in Blue Ridge. And I got to see the downtown of both towns. It was so, so nice. The town is so lovely. I got to see the train in Blue Ridge as well. So yeah, that's it.
Natalia, I believe there's something special happening on Friday.
Oh yeah, Friday's my birthday. I'm so excited about that.
And she's
turning 21.
Turning 21, so happy early birthday.
Thank you.
We hope you celebrate well. Please remember, our program next week is at the River Center. We'll be hearing from a Tiberian monk about the sand paintings that they're doing there at the River Center. So please remember to be there next week. If there's no further business, we stand adjourned. Y'all have a great week.
Don't want to
All right, you guys. Yeah. I gotta give you a moment. If you're gonna wait for this.
Meredith.